Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome in, Joe Caccera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those that are following us on Facebook. We appreciate that very much. We want to continue to grow that audience, and we continue to grow the viewership as we move along. However, this is a podcast, and as much as we love the fact that everybody is starting to join us on Facebook and listen and watch the video portion of this, which is great, want to make sure you download the podcast. That's where you get all the information, and you could do that by really going anywhere online and just type in Real Estate Radio Live. You could find the podcast, download it, and then you could listen at your convenience whenever it works for you. The focus of the show has been the same for almost 8 years now, education, information. But what we work really hard to do is with our guests and our content and our information is provide you, the consumer, with as much information and education as we can to help you, make wise decisions in and around your real estate. And that could be whether you're buying real estate, selling real estate, financing, you're doing construction, landscaping, electrical, plumbing, anything to do with real estate. We have a large network and resources to try to continue to educate you on those. And I want to take an opportunity every once in a while and thank all of you that are kind enough to continue to download the podcast, share it with other people. We continue to grow in our podcast, downloading thousands and thousands each month. We want to continue that. The majority of them are here in California that download the podcast, but we are seeing quite a bit of growth outside of California and even internationally. We're getting downloads all over, in some cases in Europe, in Asia, and many other places as well. So thank you all that are downloading those podcasts and sharing them. Hopefully you're getting more information and valuable information. And if the last thing I'll say before we get started, if you have a topic that you'd like to see covered, or you have an expert or someone that you'd like to see on the show, shoot me an email or text me, and we'd love to be able to get those people on the show or maybe cover that information or that topic that you're looking for. The email is joe@rerlive.com, and the place to text me will be 408-838-9060. All right, the topic today is going to be real estate timing, really the timing in real estate, and to try to be a leader instead of a follower. And I'll explain that as I go through the podcast today, is that so much in real estate and so much in a lot of things is timing. Well, it's impossible to time everything from a perfect sense. People will tell you that with stocks. You hear that a lot. You hear a lot of people say, well, I'm timing the market. There's very few people that could do it, and some people that could do it, they're lucky or they take a risk and you never know. That's why a lot of people would say, buy for the long term, or if you like a stock or if you like a property, if you like something, typically you do okay if you buy and hold long term. But on real estate, what I mean by be a leader instead of a follower is that use your good judgment and try to stay away from the emotions as much as you can when you make a decision on real estate. And I'm going to go into detail of that. And as a leader, right now the interest rates are at not all-time lows, but close. They're at historic lows. They're not at all-time lows, but they're pretty darn close. The interest rates are extremely low right now. Money's cheap. It's a great time. There's this little lull in the market right now, and you've heard me say this before. I just think it's a great time as a buyer. And some people would say, to challenge that, someone would say, well, Joe, we've already seen places come down 5, 10, 15%, so we're just going to wait because, they could come down another 10, 15%. Well, that's true. None of us really know if that's the case, but I will tell you that based on the research that I do, and I follow this every single day, and the history, and I've been in real estate myself, is that you're never going to know where the top or the bottom is until it's done. You're never going to know. Like right now, as we sit here in July of 2019, I could look back now and tell you, guess what? I could tell you May, June of last year, so about a year ago, is when the market was at its peak. So if I go back and ask someone last year, April, May, June, if we were to, go back in a time capsule, no one could say it was an all-time high. You can't say that until the market settles and it starts moving in one direction or another. So the reason I'm giving you some background and some history on this is that don't be the person who thinks you're going to try to time this and time it perfectly. Again, let me explain. Right now, if we go back right now, it's easy to sit here and do a show and say, okay, I could look at the data, I could look at the statistics, and guess what? The market was at its peak at May of June of last year. And that's true, it did. So if you look at the data, and if you look at the graphs, May, June of last year, now I'm specifically talking about Silicon Valley in this area, that was the peak of the market. And then since then, in the last 12 months, we've had this kind of drifting effect, and some areas have come down 5, 10, 15%. Some areas have stayed stable. Very few areas have increased. Some have stayed stable, bounced around a little bit. Some have dropped. Most have come down a little bit. So the reason I give you some background and some information on this is that this is a great time to buy. And we won't know. We won't know till a year from now approximately. And I'll give you an example, just like I used a minute ago, right? So we sit here today, July 16th, today as I'm doing this podcast. And a year from now, July 16, 2020, there's a good chance I'm going to be able to be here doing a podcast, hopefully, and I'll be able to look back a year from now, or look back a year and say, guess what? We knew that September of 2019 was the bottom, whatever the bottom is, right? We don't know what that is right now. Do you get my drift? Do you see what I'm saying here? You could track and you could strategize as much as you want, but really the message I want to get out today is I think that right now, and I'm not just this day right now, but you've been hearing me say this for the last 3 or 4 months, is a great time to buy. And especially if you're selling a home and you're buying a home again in this area. And some people would, again, initially, emotionally, their reaction would be, Joe, that doesn't make sense because, gosh, if I'd have sold my house a year ago, I could have got $100,000 or $150,000 more. Right. But let's finish this conversation. Let's look at it logically and not emotionally. So let's just say that you go to put your house on the market today and you compare apples to apples and you get $100,000 less for it than you would have got a year ago. Okay, fair enough. Probably true. Probably correct. Guess what? When you go to buy a home right now, guess what? You're going to get the home that you buy for at least $100,000 or less than you would have bought it for last year. Does that make sense? So you could wash those things out. There's never going to be this, I shouldn't say never, it's hard to time this stuff in a perfect sense. If you're in the market to move up or an upgrade or get a bigger home or different area, whatever it is, let's call it move up or an upgrade, now is a great time to do it for the reason I just talked about. And the rates are near all-time lows, so money's cheap. Let me tell you what is going to happen. I can almost guarantee, and the great thing about podcasts and radio is everything's recorded, so you go back and listen whether you want to or not. And you can find out whether you're somewhat accurate or not because there's a timestamp for it. So again, as we sit here July 16, 2019, I'd be willing to bet a year from now, I just am, I'd be willing to bet a year from now having this podcast, we're going to look back and really think that the second and third quarter or the latter part of 2019 was a great time to buy. I really do. I think a year from now, we will look back, and again, this is no guarantee. It's not perfection. It's not voodoo. I'm just suggesting that when you look at some of the trends, which I do every day and I see what's going on, as summer wraps up, people are going to get more and more serious and focused back to work. Kids are back in school. It just happens. I know it. some formulas that are taking place right now, this is a great time to buy. And I think that a year from now we'll look back, and I think that will be the case. And we'll see. It'll be fun. It'll be interesting to see. It's not a matter of right or wrong, but it's a matter of studying data and information and seeing when is the best time for you. Now, if you're not in the market to buy or sell, then this is just a great conversation, hopefully, and you learn something and you educate yourself for the time that it is buy or sell. I'm suggesting that for those that are on the fence and those in these categories, those people that say, gosh, I tried to buy a year and a half or so, I was getting killed, I was getting outbid, I don't want to go through that again, I'm going to take some time off. That's for you. Now is a great time to buy. That person that makes that statement, now is a great time to buy. Okay, the other person that is a first-time home buyer, now is a great time to buy. You ask why? Because now you're actually able to use, believe it or not, get your offer accepted with FHA financing. Now you're actually able to get your offer accepted with a contingent financing. Now you're able to, in some cases, get the agent the home that you're buying to accept the fact that, hey, I got to sell my home before I buy this home. Can you guys take a contingent offer? That is going on more now than I've seen it go on for the last 4 or 5 years. So for these reasons, I'm just really pressing for people to get out there and make that decision. And this is where it comes to the title of the podcast today. Be a leader instead of a follower. And you might say, well, what's a leader? A leader is someone who studies the market, tries to understand it the best they can, and then does what's best for them, and in some cases goes against conventional wisdom. Why do you think it is that so many people tell stories how they bought at the peak of the market? You know why that is? Because people wait, and they 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 just can't take it anymore. It's like a drug. I just can't take it anymore. They wait, they wait, they wait. And then typically, right at the peak of the market, everybody rushes to the market because everybody else is doing it. And they buy, and there's this huge surge. Next thing you know, you hear these stories of people saying, oh my God, I bought at the peak of the market. I can't believe I did this. Again, to address that, you've heard me say this before. Hey, if you buy at the peak of the market because it's the right time for you, that's awesome. And some people would say, well, Joe, it's a bad time. Not really. Not if you plan to own that home long term. And not if it was right for you and your family. No. Could you have, in a perfect world, could you have timed it better? Yeah, maybe. But that doesn't always work that way. Some people do have the luxury of buying and selling at times when they're typically a little bit better. That's true. But some people don't. And so don't beat yourself up about that. That just happens, and no matter what we do. In this case, it's a large purchase. So this is where the leadership comment comes in, to be a leader in real estate. Right now, you have all these people on the sidelines going, oh, no, I'm going to wait because I think the market's coming down to that 10%, and if it comes down another 10%, I'm going to wait. Here's the problem. Everybody's thinking that the market's going to repeat what it did in 08 and 09, and I just don't see it doing that. No one could guarantee anything, and I'm not sitting here guaranteeing that. But when you look at the data and you look at the market, you look at the jobs, you look at the strength of this economy, there is no way that this housing market's going to come crashing down unless there's something that happens that we don't know about. Geopolitical, something, a war, something of that, something that happens that we don't know about. It's a different story. Then the markets could change. But if you look at the pure data right now, unemotionally, what the job market's like, the income levels here in the Silicon Valley, the fact that you can't build anymore, everything is vertical growth. There's a shortage of land and opportunity to add more product and more housing here. So there's a capacity issue there. There's a supply and demand. Because of that, and because of the strong job market, and because of the interest rates, yes, the housing market has to take breathers every once in a while, and those are normal, healthy breathers, and that's what it's doing right now. What I don't want to see, and I know it'll happen because it always does, and again, it's not a perfect situation, is what I hate to see is those buyers that got beat up the last couple of years ago, And so they went on the sidelines, and they're still on the sidelines. What I'd hate to see is sometime next year, this market flip and then change back to a seller's market, and then the buyers are getting beat up again. I'm not suggesting it's going to do that. I don't know for a fact it's going to do that. But as I'm studying and looking at this market as I do every day, the inventory here in the Silicon Valley is still pretty low. I mean, it's around 2,000, a little bit more than 2,000. People would say, well, Joe, it was down to 500 or 600 a year or so ago. And that's true. But for those that aren't familiar with the market and the inventory, we're a little over 2,000 right now in Silicon Valley here in Santa Clara County. Let's just call it Santa Clara County. That's what we run our basis around here. A normal kind of average inventory is closer to 2,500 or 3,000, just to give you a frame of reference. Historically, that's an average homes on market in Santa Clara County, about 2,500 to 3,000. So we're still low on the average side. Rates are near historic lows. Job market's strong. Purchasability strong. It's a great time. It's a great time to buy. So, and they're still moving. Things are moving. But my topic today about be a leader, what I mean by that is don't do what everybody else is doing right. If you're a buyer, don't follow the rest of the sheep and sit around just because everybody's talking about the market's going to keep going down. Don't make the mistake of listening to all that and then just sitting on the sidelines. If, in fact, you really want to buy, buck the trend and go buy. And here's the reason why. I can make a case for it. Let's just play this out, because it's better to explain this stuff than it is sometimes just to throw it. Let's play it out. So let's say that you buy right now and you get a great interest rate, something under 4%, 3 3/4. You're super happy. It's great. You buy a house, and let's say you buy it for $1 million. Happy, good to go, and you're not worried so much about the fluctuations of the market. You found a place you like. You were going to be a leader in this market. You don't want to get back into this hostile seller's market, so you get out there and buy. And you buy for $1 million, and you have a rate under 4%. And let's say 6 months from now, you look back and the house flattens or it stays the same, and so your house 6 months from now is worth, $950, $925. It's all subjective, right? But let's just play that out. Let's say that, you're pounding the table thinking, if I just would have waited another 6 months, I could have bought that house for $925 or $950 instead of $1 million. But guess what? You got to look at other factors. 6 months from now, what if the rates are back to 4.5%? And that 4.5% payment meant a mortgage payment of $200 or $250 more a month than it was 6 months ago. You have to factor these things in. You can't just look at a market and, I believe, you can't just look at a market and look at one dimension and do it emotionally and think that you have all the answers to it. I do think part of this dynamic, why the market has stalled a little bit, I do think that there are people that are sitting around the campfires, the kitchen tables, the office buildings, the water coolers, and they're talking about what's going on with this market. Boy, the market's changed. My house was worth 1.5, 2 years ago, and now it's worth 1.4. Man, what's going to happen? Is it going to be worth 1.2 next month? I know those conversations are happening. In some cases, the homes have come down. But if I've learned one thing, I've learned a lot doing real estate and doing this show and studying every day, it's that it's great to get education information. I'm a big fan, obviously, because of this show and other places as well. But you cannot let others, and the mistake that most people make is they listen to what everybody else is saying. And the part of the reason the market is the way it is today is because of I don't know the number, the Bay Area, there's thousands, millions, I don't know, people that are waiting. Oh gosh, I don't know, what if the market comes down a little bit? And then you have the people that are reluctant to sell their home because they're worried that they're going to get less from their home. 2 years ago is gone. Forget about the past. Learn from the past. Live in the present and the future. I'll repeat that. Learn from the past and then live in the present and the future. The way you do that is you study it, you understand it, you look at the numbers unemotionally, and you make these decisions. Quit worrying about and talking about what your house was worth a year and a half ago. Because it's going to be worth something different a year and a half from now, just like it was a year and a half ago. It always is. It's just the way it is. And I know people have this fascination with the real estate values because it's a crazy market, and some of us seen crazy increases. We've seen some people buy homes for $20,000 or $30,000 50 years ago, and now they're worth $2 million. And these are crazy, crazy appreciation values. And so just benefit from it and make your next move based on that. Do the best you can with what you have, and that's the best thing that I would recommend. So, again, being a leader in the market would mean, to summarize, if you're on the fence, or if you're a person thinking you're going to buy, or if you're a person that has a home to sell, and you're stopping and you're holding off on selling that home because you're concerned that you're not going to get enough for your home, remember, when you go to buy a home, you're going to take advantage of this buyer's market. And by the way, if your home's listed in the right price and it's in a good area and it's a desirable area, your home's still going to sell. We have to quit going back and comparing what happened a year and a half ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. Do this exercise. This is an even better one. For those people who still have their home now, do this exercise for me. Go back and take a look at, see what your home was worth in 2005. Okay? Do this exercise. Go back and see what your home was worth in 2005, 2006, because that should have been about the peak of that last real estate market. Write that down. And then go forward and tell me what your home was worth in 2008, 2009, 2010. Okay? And now tell me what your house is worth now, or again, go through this exercise with yourself, your spouse, your partner, your friend, whatever. My guess is what you're going to see is you're going to see if it was in a desirable area, and I'll just give you an example with the property, my property. In 2005, I paid $1.3 million for a property. Just give you my example. That $1.3 million property by the peak in 2006, 2007, when things start turning, was probably, 1.4, maybe a little more. So I almost bought in the peak of the market. And then that market came down, right? We all know the 2007, 2008, 2009 mortgage meltdown. At one point, the house that I bought for 1.3 in 2005, I would say maybe 2009, 2008, right in there, maybe 2010, was worth maybe $1 million. Maybe less, but I would say $1 million, $300,000 loss on paper. No loss because you're not doing anything with it. Okay, so we had 1.3, let's call it, then we had 3, 1 million in this situation, and now we're at about 1.7 or 1.8. So here's the reason why I'd like for people to go through this exercise. Don't get greedy, and understand that for the most part, if your home was in the Silicon Valley here, it's not a guarantee, but I'll bet you anything, most people that owned a home in 2005, most people, even today, that home is worth now more than it was in the peak in 2005 and 2006. I'm not saying all of them are, and it's not a guarantee. All I'm saying is if you do the exercise, go back and look at that, in the peak of the market, I'll bet you that your home is not worth less, and it's probably worth more today than it was in 2005 and 2006 if you own that same home. I would guess the majority would say my home is the same or better. The reason I bring that up is that don't get too greedy and don't lose sight about the times when your home was worth 3 or 4 or 500,000 less than it is today. Real estate for most people, unless you're a flipper, it's a different story. If you're flipping homes and property, totally different story. This conversation's different. Not for you, the people that are looking to buy a home and make it their primary residence and stay there for 8, 10, 15 years. It's a different conversation for investments and flippers. Completely different, because they're truly based on timing. They have to be careful if they're caught in a bad market with timing. So, as I summarize and close out the show, please, if you're listening to this podcast, number one, let me just summarize: be a leader, take charge. Rates are near all-time lows. If you have a loan, if you have a second loan, time to consolidate those loans. If you say, Joe, I have a great first loan, I don't want to do this, run the numbers. Let me tell you, if you have an interest rate below 4, you could probably still get an interest rate below 4, depending on your loan amount, your credit, your loan to value, all those things. You could consolidate that first and second and stay with the same interest rate, and you might be able to get a better interest rate. And for those people that say, I did this loan 4 years ago, Joe, I don't want to go backwards, you don't have to go backwards. Most people don't know this. You could re-amortize. You could do a refinance to a 25-year loan, 25 years amortized. Refinance so you're not going backwards, okay? So just keep that in mind. That's right now. Secondly, if you're thinking about remodeling, adding on, doing something to your home, there's a real need for money right now, and you've been wanting to do this. Now is a great time to refinance, cash out, pull that money out, and remodel your property, reinvest it back into your property. Use that money how you wish, but the best way to use that money is put it right back in your property, because you're going to get it out in value. So that's the second thing. Be a leader. Be a leader and refinance and capture the close to near all-time low interest rates. Take advantage of that. Number two, be a leader if you need cash out to remodel, to add on, to buy another property, to start a business, whatever you need. Now is a great time to refinance and cash out and pull that money out, because money is cheap right now. Thirdly, be a leader in the selling and buying market. If you're selling a home, lead. Don't worry about it. When you turn around and go buy a home, you're still going to get the value. Yes, you're going to get less than you would have got a year and a half ago, but you got to get over that. You have to understand that you're going to make up that difference on your purchase. Be a leader on the sell side. Lastly, buyers. Now is a great time to buy. We're getting close to a year. These last 6 to 8 months have been the best time to buy a home in the last 4 or 5 years. And I'm concerned that if we upswing again and get into a seller's market, that a lot of these buyers are going to be pushed out of the market again. So be a leader on the buy side. If the timing's right, get pre-approved, get started. Remember, we could help you with all this. That's what we're here for. We do this show, but we do financing. We could recommend real estate agents, financial planners, tax advice. We could do all that stuff. We could help you with all that. All right? So as we close out, the message again, be a leader in real estate. Do not be a follower. If there's any questions you have at all during the week or anytime, you could email me, joe@reradiolive.com. Again, that's joe@reradiolive.com. Or you could always call or text 408-838-9060. Take charge of your real estate. Take charge of your life. And be a leader. Believe me, you will benefit from it, and you'll be happy for it in the long run. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great afternoon. Take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.